Hello, my friends. Welcome to Luna English Podcast. This is Luna. Today I've been thinking about something I know so many of you feel deeply. You can understand English when you read or listen, but when it's time to speak, the words just don't come out. You understand what people say, but when it's your turn, you freeze, hesitate, or suddenly forget everything. It can feel frustrating, right? You might even wonder what's wrong with you. But nothing is wrong. Understanding and speaking are two very different skills. One is passive and the other is active. Listening allows you time to absorb, but speaking forces you to create in real time. That's where the pressure comes from. In this episode, I want to talk gently about why this happens, how to understand your fear of speaking, and how to build confidence step by step. Speaking English doesn't need to feel scary. It can become natural, calm, and even enjoyable when you stop chasing perfection and start focusing on progress. Why does speaking feel so difficult, even when you understand so much? The main reason is that speaking is an active skill. It demands fast thinking, memory recall, and coordination between your mind and mouth. When you listen, your brain has time to process what you hear. But when you speak, you have to build sentences instantly. That's a very different type of mental work. Many learners don't realize that this gap is normal. You might think, if I understand English, I should be able to speak it easily. But that's not how language works. Speaking is a muscle. It only grows through use. If you rarely speak, it's natural that your words come slowly or sound uncertain. So instead of judging yourself, recognize what's really happening. Your brain understands English well, but your speaking muscles haven't been trained enough yet. That's all. Once you start giving them daily practice, even in small moments, you'll begin to feel a quiet change. Words will come faster, and confidence will slowly replace hesitation. Why do you feel afraid to speak, even when you know the words? The truth is, fear of speaking isn't about language. It's about emotion. You're not scared of English itself. You're scared of being judged, corrected, or misunderstood. You're afraid of sounding wrong. This fear often comes from perfectionism. You want to speak perfectly, with no mistakes, no pauses, and no awkward moments. But that pressure freezes your mind. When you try to control every word, your brain becomes tense and your thoughts stop flowing. The moment you relax, the words return. So speaking confidence begins with emotional freedom, not just grammar or vocabulary. You need to give yourself permission to sound imperfect. Mistakes don't mean failure, they mean movement. Every time you speak, you're training your brain to act instead of hide. Remember this, no one ever became fluent by staying silent. Your courage to speak, even with mistakes, is what opens the door to real growth. What's the real difference between passive and active skills? Passive skills are things like listening and reading. You receive language. Active skills are speaking and writing. You produce language. Most learners spend years practicing passive skills. They listen to songs, watch videos, read books. That builds strong understanding, but not speaking fluency. Because passive learning is comfortable, there's no pressure, no fear of judgment. Active learning, however, feels risky. When you speak, you expose yourself. But that's exactly where transformation happens. Imagine learning to swim by watching videos. You'd understand how to move, but until you get in the water, you wouldn't really know how it feels. The same is true with speaking. Understanding prepares you, but speaking activates everything you've learned. So don't stop at passive learning. It's time to balance both. Listen and speak. Absorb and express. The more you use your English actively, the faster your fluency will grow, naturally and confidently. Why does perfection stop progress? Because perfection creates fear, and fear blocks action. Many learners wait until they feel ready, but that day never comes. You think you need more vocabulary, more grammar, more confidence. But confidence doesn't come first. Speaking does. When you try to speak perfectly, you stop yourself from speaking at all. Real fluency comes from flow, not control. Every native speaker makes mistakes too. They pause, they say, they repeat words. That's normal communication. When you aim for perfect, you lose your natural rhythm. But when you accept good enough, you allow your brain to relax and your thoughts to move freely. That's when real communication begins. Speaking isn't a test, it's connection. You don't need to impress anyone, just express yourself clearly and kindly. Perfection is not your goal. Progress is. So next time you feel the pressure to sound perfect, take a breath, smile, and speak anyway. What is shadowing and why does it help? Shadowing means listening to a piece of spoken English and repeating it right after the speaker, almost like an echo. It trains your mouth, ears, and brain to work together in real time. It's one of the most powerful tools for moving from passive understanding to active speaking. When you shadow, you don't just listen, you speak while listening. You imitate pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation. Over time, this builds confidence and fluency because you're training your mouth to move naturally in English. At first, it may feel strange, but that's part of the process. Start with short clips or podcasts you enjoy. Don't worry about being exact. Focus on flow and tone. Shadowing helps you overcome fear because you practice without pressure. You're not performing, you're training. It's safe, private, and deeply effective. The more you shadow, the more natural English begins to sound inside you, and soon speaking will feel more automatic than forced. How can talking to yourself improve speaking? It's one of the easiest and most effective ways to practice every day. You don't need a teacher or a partner, just your own voice. When you talk to yourself, you train your thoughts to move in English. You can describe what you're doing, how you feel, or what you're planning. For example, say, "I'm making tea," or "I'm tired, but I'll finish this task." These small moments teach your brain to switch naturally between languages. They also reduce anxiety because there's no fear of mistakes or judgment. It's just you and your thoughts. Over time, this habit builds fluency quietly. The goal isn't perfect sentences, it's comfort. You're teaching your brain to think and respond in English automatically. So whenever you're alone, use those moments. Talk softly to yourself. Practice saying things out loud. Every small conversation with yourself makes the next real conversation easier. How do you start building speaking confidence? Start small, truly small. You don't need to give long answers or deep talks. Begin with 1 sentence a day, then 2. Say a few lines about your morning, your feelings, or something you noticed. It's better to speak a little every day than a lot once a month. Consistency matters more than intensity. Think of it like watering a plant. Small drops every day make it grow strong. If you push too hard too soon, you'll feel pressure and stop. But if you move slowly, you'll build comfort and rhythm. Speaking isn't about speed, it's about connection and ease. So create simple daily habits. Short shadowing, quick self-talk, a few lines in front of a mirror. When you build small, steady steps, your fear fades naturally. You'll notice progress not because you suddenly speak perfectly, but because you finally speak calmly. Why are mistakes so important? Because they're proof you're practicing. Many learners fear mistakes, but every error shows where you're growing. When you make one, you see what to fix next. Without mistakes, there's no direction. Think about how children learn to speak. They make hundreds of mistakes, but they don't stop. They laugh, repeat, and learn. You can do the same. Mistakes are feedback, not failure. When you stop fearing them, you become free to learn faster. Try to notice what kind of mistakes you repeat. Maybe it's pronunciation or word order. Focus on one thing at a time, gently. Don't correct everything at once. Each mistake is a message from your brain saying, "I'm learning." Be kind to yourself during this process. You're not supposed to be perfect. You're supposed to be growing. The more mistakes you make, the more real progress you'll see. Why does daily practice matter so much? Because language is memory in motion. If you stop using it, it fades. But when you practice every day, even for 5 minutes, your brain keeps English active and ready. You don't need long sessions. You just need rhythm. A few minutes of shadowing, a short talk with yourself, or even whispering your thoughts in English keeps your mind connected to the language. Fluency is built from consistency, not intensity. Small daily actions create lasting change. Think of it like brushing your teeth. You don't skip days because it's a habit. Speaking should be the same. The more you make English part of your daily rhythm, the less effort it takes. Over time, your confidence grows naturally, and speaking becomes as normal as breathing. Don't wait for motivation. Build routine. That's where transformation begins. How can you make speaking less stressful? Create a safe space for yourself, both physically and emotionally. Find a quiet corner, your room, or even a park bench where you can practice freely without fear of being overheard or judged. When you feel safe, your brain relaxes and your words flow more easily. Some learners record themselves speaking, not to criticize, but to listen kindly and notice progress. Others join online speaking circles where everyone shares the same fear, and that shared understanding removes pressure. The key is emotional safety. You must feel free to speak without expecting perfection. Remind yourself that fluency grows through comfort, not tension. The more you associate English speaking with calmness and curiosity, the more confident you'll sound. So protect your space, protect your peace, and let speaking be something gentle, not something you fight against. Why should you learn to think in English? Because translation slows you down. When you think in your native language first, your brain needs time to change words into English, which creates hesitation. But if you train yourself to think directly in English, your sentences come faster and more naturally. Thinking in English doesn't mean you stop using your native language. It means you build another path in your mind. Start small. Label objects around you in English. When you see a cup, think cup, not your native word. Describe your thoughts simply, like, "It's sunny," or "I feel tired." Over time, your brain adapts. The more you think in English, the less you translate, and the smoother you'll sound. It's like switching from walking to gliding. Less effort, more flow. This simple shift will make speaking feel lighter, more natural, and much more enjoyable. What can you do when your mind goes blank while speaking? First, breathe. It's normal. When you panic, your brain shuts down because it senses danger. But there's no real danger here. Only your fear of mistakes. So slow down. Take a second to think. Use simple words to restart, even if they're not perfect. Say something like, "Let me think," or "I want to say this differently." These small fillers keep conversation moving and give your brain time to recover. The more you practice staying calm in these moments, the less they'll scare you. Fluency isn't about never pausing, it's about continuing even when your mind hesitates. You can always find another word or explain your idea in a simpler way. The key is not to stop speaking. Keep the flow, even softly, and your confidence will grow stronger with each try. Why does enjoyment matter so much? Because if speaking feels like a chore, you'll avoid it. But if it feels like play, you'll return to it again and again. Learning is emotional. When you enjoy the process, your brain relaxes and your memory improves. So find ways to make speaking pleasant. Listen to voices you love, shadow your favorite podcast, talk about topics that truly interest you. Don't focus only on results. Focus on connection, expression, and curiosity. You don't need to speak fast or use big words. You just need to enjoy expressing yourself. When speaking becomes joyful instead of stressful, progress happens naturally. You'll wake up one day and realize you're speaking freely, not perfectly, but comfortably. That's what real fluency feels like: ease, flow, and peace with your own voice. What's the final key to speaking freely? Acceptance. You don't need to speak perfect English to speak confidently. You just need to speak again and again. Accept that mistakes will come. Accept that your accent is part of your story. Accept that some days will feel easier than others. That's all normal. Fluency isn't a finish line. It's a rhythm you live with. Every word you speak is a small victory. So stop waiting for someday when you'll feel ready. You're ready now. The goal isn't perfect speech. It's connection, expression, and growth. Keep shadowing, keep talking to yourself, keep practicing daily. Let English be part of your life, not your stress. Every time you speak, you move closer to freedom. Don't fear imperfection, embrace it, because your real fluency begins the moment you stop waiting to sound perfect and start speaking from the heart.